everyone for coming today, both in person and online in the webinar. If you can't hear me well, please just let us know and I'll try to correct that. I'm Derek Tang. I'm the grant manager for CalSEED. Normally I would be here with my travel partner, Deepa, program manager. Unfortunately, she just fell ill last night, so she couldn't make it, but to join for the later webinars and definitely send to all you find that. So I'm here to tell you about the CalSEED program and what this means for you as entrepreneurs, as researchers, is the potential to win a grant of up to $150,000. And that application process begins a couple weeks on February 15th. So CalSEED overall is a $24 million grant funding program that's spread out over 5 years. The goal is to find about 100 entrepreneurs working on very early stage. We launched basically exactly 1 year ago. So we probably have 28 awardees in the program. And the source of this funding is through the California Energy Commission, funding source called EPIC, which is the electric program investment charge inside of our utility. Each of our billing cycles goes towards the pot of money that amounts to about $180 million a year, part of which is that's who I am. So how this works is actually a two-stage award process. So with CalSEED, you have the opportunity to get up to $2,000. The online applications that will be opening soon are for the concept award. The first award of $150,000. And for those who win that award, you will go through 6 to 18 months of professional development using those grant funds to advance your technology. And then the winners will then, the concept award, compete for the second follow-on award, which is the prototype award, for the remaining $450,000. And that competition is a business plan competition. So the first part is purely online, and then the second part is a pitch in front of a panel of judges. So I'll explain more about that process going forward. And CalSEED is not just the California Clean Energy Fund. So Deepa and I work for CalSEF, which is the administrator of this grant program for the CEC. We have very strong partners across the state, including technical experts such as Berkeley Lab, industry experts, and social equity experts such as Greenlining, Grant Farm, legal resources like Zipser, as well as several academic institutions like UC Davis and UCSD's Center for Energy Research. So the point of this partner ecosystem is to provide not just the money, but the professional development resources that a lot of entrepreneurs need, that a lot of entrepreneurs have in common in terms of the problems they face and the challenges they have as they grow their business. So the goal is to create this ecosystem to support everyone with both funding and development. In addition to the CalSEED group, we also have several regional partners known as the Regional Energy Innovation Ecosystem Clusters. So CSU Fresno Blue Tech Valley is one of those 4 partners, along with Activation Energy, which is run by Cyclotron Road in Berkeley, LACI's Energize California initiative in LA, and the San Diego Regional Energy Innovation Network, which is Cleantech San Diego. And we also have, in the same CEC ecosystem, a consultant called Navigant, who helps provide broader ecosystem support, such as a platform to bring together entrepreneurs and partners and connect them. So that's coming soon. So it really is a statewide initiative sponsored by the CEC, and CalSEED is kind of the main grant funding engine for that. So it's not just about the money. CalSEED really is about the entrepreneur journey. And the reason for this is because we really are targeting early stage entrepreneurs. So we want to make sure you're properly trained to be successful as you grow your business toward commercialization. So what this means is in the summer, after you would win an award, there's an orientation where we introduce you to the contracting aspects, what it means to have this grant. But then we also kick off with a boot camp. So it's a weekend-long boot camp with Cleantech Open, where you really accelerate your business learning. So covering things like business model canvas, being matched with their mentors. And this continues on throughout the summer with several in-person events. So there are regional business clinics based on where you're located. We have a chance for a lot of one-on-one workshops with themed content for each of those clinics. And ongoing beyond the summer, we'll have regular check-ins. So monthly webinars where we will host with partners certain content each month. So how to do customer discovery, how to apply for small business registration with DGS and what the benefits of that are. Webinars hosted by utilities like PG&E. So a really great chance to have a relatively small group of people interact with experts in a variety of fields. And we also do regular check-ins so that the awardees can publicize what are the needs and asks and offers that they have and try to get that peer mentorship and community going. So it's great to see one awardee say like, hey, I need help finding someone who's an expert on injection molding. And then someone else in the group just happens to know that person. And that's the kind of connection we can't hope to do ourselves alone. So that's why that peer mentorship and community is so important. And lastly, there's a huge opportunity for showcases. So several events throughout the year that we helped publicize and curate, as well as put together ourselves through us and our partners. In fact, this weekend in LA, Cleantech Open is putting together the global forum in parallel with the Verde Exchange conference. So this is a great opportunity for several of our CalSEED winners to actually showcase the technologies, meet potential investors, meet potential partners, and just get some publicity. So Cleantech Open really is the vehicle of our acceleration program. So they've been around for decades. They have a very well-respected business acceleration program geared towards specifically clean energy technologies and sustainability. So that includes a sophisticated algorithm for matching you with mentor, training on and content around common business needs, and then also helping with introductions to gain access to future capital for future investment. So it really is quite a thorough program, and that's why it's the whole summer of both remote and in-person interaction. And in general, when you finish Cleantech Open, there's a certain standard that you've met. There's the Cleantech Open graduate is a well-recognized name. So there are some alumni such as Connect that you might recognize. Yep.
So the business workshops that are in person, are they all in the LA area or?
Yeah, they're regional. So there are some in Northern California, some in Southern California. I think for the most part, LA and Southern California.
And who the other is responsible for paying their own travel, things like that?
Yes, with CalSEED, though, you could use your grant funds for that travel.
So you can build that into your what you continue to want.
That's correct, yes. And with Cleantech Open, that is a program that's open to outside CalSEED as well. So there's a separate application process for that, a separate process to enroll those applicants. But if you win the CalSEED award, you are automatically enrolled into Cleantech Open. So that's part of the package. So that kind of summarizes the overall program benefits. So it's not just the grant dollars, but this network and this training community that we put together as well. Question?
Just a quick question. The eligibility, like who is supposed to apply for the grant? It's kind of like because first I thought it's about the small business owners, but it looks like that the first portion of the award is for proof of concept. In that case, if I don't have a company that I have a concept, I have an idea that I think that can grow, then I can apply for something like that.
Yes, I'll go into a lot more detail on who can apply, what the eligibility is like, the details of the application process. So that's actually the bulk of this presentation. So perfect transition. And do please feel free to interrupt me with questions. And we also will make this presentation available online probably later next week, but it will be available. I believe this is being recorded as well. So just to give you a sense of who we funded so far. So in the previous solicitation, these are the 28 awardees. So it's really a huge range, and this is the best part of the job, is working with these entrepreneurs, seeing the variety of technologies they're working on, the variety of stages, and seeing their successes and challenges along the way. So we have everything from new hardware prototypes for lighting technologies, new ways of generating cheap solar steam or solar heat, new battery technologies, ways to mine lithium in a more efficient way, a high voltage varistor for grid control and grid resilience, and even software for delivering community solar more effectively to communities around California, and a very out there idea, which is magnetic refrigeration using high power magnets to be able to refrigerate hydrogen or other materials to a very low temperature. So it really is a whole range from energy generation to energy efficiency, hardware, software, integrated solutions, and we'll cover that range coming up. So who can apply? So as I mentioned, early stage clean energy, what does that mean exactly? So the first requirement is that your innovation, your concepts must benefit California electric ratepayers. The reason for that is these are EPIC funds, so anything that EPIC funds should benefit the same people that contributed those funds in the first place. So I'll get into a little bit more about what this phrase ratepayer benefit means, and it really is quite broadly about clean energy related to electricity. It does need to be very early stage. So this means before demonstration scale, you might have a prototype, but it's at pre-pilot stage. So there are more nuanced ways to define this. One is technology readiness level, 2 through 4. So I'll explain more what that means as well. And then finally, for this particular solicitation, you must be located in California. So you will use your California address. You can use your official business address, and that determines your eligibility and also which region you're applying from, which I'll go into more detail in as well. But beyond that, it's open to individuals, teams, businesses, nonprofits, academics, any type of entity. Yes.
Question on the address, Derek. For a CalSEED application, you can get physical address in California.
Correct. Yeah.
Does the corporation register?
If you're applying as the corporation, you should be registered in California. Your business address should be in California. Before you win the award, it needs to be registered and in good standing with the Secretary of State in California as well.
So you have to be California.
Yes. Yeah. And as far as the so this ratepayer benefit aspect, it does include a really broad variety of clean energy topics. So energy storage, efficiency, lighting. Overall, it just needs to be somehow tied to the electric grid because that's where the funds are coming from. So if you're thinking about if you're close enough or not close enough to the grid, think about kind of convincing your neighbor who pays PG&E bills why they should be funding this research, why it's related to their utility bill at some point in the future. There are certain exclusions. Natural gas is not funded by CalSEED because it's covered by the natural gas programs at CEC. But in general, there needs to be some connection to the electric grid. Does that make sense for everyone?
And here, if I could add on to that, water is a direct component to energy, correct?
Yes, absolutely. The water energy nexus. Yes, the water energy nexus is directly related to the grid, so that those would qualify for sure. And then as far as hardware versus software versus integrated solutions, hardware is probably the first thing you think of when you think about energy generation or even energy efficiency upgrades in the hardware sense. So those physical components can be anything from battery chemistry, new PV technology, new infrastructure improvements in transmission and distribution, electric vehicles. Those are all in scope. What we would not fund are examples like project financing for a specific technology that's already mature, scaling up manufacturing, and as I mentioned before, natural gas. On the software side, what qualifies is our programs or applications that interface with hardware and improve its performance. So that would include things like Internet of Things that are related to energy, electricity, or algorithms that can improve grid reliability control, or demand response solutions. So those are software solutions that are related to the grid but have some sort of hardware component in its use and interaction. So what we wouldn't accept are software to increase customer acquisition of a certain technology, games, just the website development for an existing company or idea, or training platforms or workforce development platforms that are just there for that purpose, as opposed to advancing some sort of new hard science. And then integrated solutions are these combinations of both software and hardware, such as vehicle-to-grid technologies, microgrids, and those are all acceptable. You just have to make sure that it's not a single solution that is not easily replicated, or that it's not a novel application of this combination of hardware and software. So I'll pause here for questions about this, especially for those working on software applications. A lot of times they're not quite sure where they land on this.
I have a question about electric vehicles. I've already submitted last year solar powered drone and solar powered drone, but I wasn't sure if it is relevant. So it's not exactly like I don't develop solar panels, but I believe that in future we are expecting to have a lot of drones. Let's say do different things. For example, delivery, security, things. So they need all the energy. So we're trying to make it self-powered on the solar. And so for long endurance operation. And so what do you think? So
I think the argument there is more about the ratepayer benefit part. So how do you tie solar drones to the electric grid?
Somehow you have to charge them with some energy.
Yeah.
So if they're solar powered and you make them in a way that they are self-powered, so probably it's relevant.
Yeah, I think that by itself, if you can connect it to electricity, then it's in scope for sure. Yeah. And then as far as early stage goes, what does this mean? Because it's hard to, like TRL is really hard to read about. It's different for hardware and software. So we're trying to pin down, give you more of an idea of what we are looking for with early stage. And for those who did apply last year, we actually are looking for slightly earlier. So before it was TRL 1 through 5, now we're focusing more on TRL 2 through 4. So what this means is if you have a hardware concept, you're still in the stage of doing studies or modeling, or you might be doing proof of concept, or you might be testing at a lab scale. It's when you get to pilot scale or demonstration scale for sure, that you're probably too late stage. For software, this probably means you're in alpha, or you're just finished defining the preliminary requirements, or have just finished coding the basic principles of this program. And then for integrated solutions, you've already done some preliminary mapping, but minimal actual integration. You've only just started testing it or identifying what the components of the system are. So before I take questions, these are some examples of too late stage. So if you have something that's already working smoothly, it's operationalized, it's beyond the pilot scale prototype, if you're already manufacturing it, if you're commercialized or certified, if you have a beta software, or if you're generating revenue or have customers, those are signs that you're probably too late stage. So these are not blanket statements, but those are indications that you might be too late for CalSEED. So questions about this? Hello.
Can you have products that are already too late, but then you're working within your company with something else? That product or a new product or add-on product?
Yeah, definitely. Like kind of spin outs and things like that. It gets tricky there because you can definitely apply with new technologies that are based on old technologies. That's how a lot of technology works. But I think you just need to argue that the new technology that you're proposing is truly independent. It's a truly new concept, and not just an iteration or a feature or a new application of a more developed technology. If that is the case, and you make that argument, then yes, that would apply. Yeah.
Can you go back to the previous slide?
Yeah. And these will be on the web in about a week or so, and they'll be on our FAQs, and we'll have an application manual as well, released before the applications open on the 15th.
Do you have any historical data like this way bears more preference? Or is there any statistical data like you have from energy efficiency to generation as an in different field? proposals submitted? Do you have any specific data like which really has more winner? Or what is your
there's some data, but the reviews are not done with that kind of goal. So we're within the stage we're looking for, 2 through 4 TRL, and within hardware, software, and integrated solutions, we don't necessarily have a prescription of what percentage you want of each. It's only a matter of making sure you qualify in the first place, and then once that's there, they're pretty much all viewed on even playing surface. So we don't have certain goals as far as how early, how many hardware, how many software. That kind of comes out naturally. It's just a matter of whether you fit or in scope or not. And then those who are in scope are reviewed by the full committee. So the process is like so. So first, there's going to be a eligibility application. This is slightly different from last year also. And I'll go into more detail there, but it's a 2-phase application process where everyone is eligible, or is open to apply with the eligibility questionnaire, but only some will be invited to do the full application. For those who submit the full application, it will be submitted for a technical review, which I'll explain as well. Then once you win the concept award, you start spending the grant funds and also taking advantage of these professional development resources that CalSEED offers. After 6 to 18 months of that, we can enter into the business plan competition to try to win that prototype award. And that continues with additional follow-on support from CalSEED, and we try to connect you with other investors as well as your later stage.
Hey, Gary.
Yeah.
Question about the schedule on the previous slide. That slide, yes. So the eligibility application is coming out February 15th and it's due by February 28th.
Correct. Yes.
The full application is after February 28th.
Yes.
And then for the funding, the concept award, do you think when might the funding be available for concept award?
Probably July. I'll have a time frame as the last slide to get an idea of what to expect based on last year. It probably takes around 4 to 5 months between application submission and actual award.
1 second.
Sure. Okay, so another thing that's different this year, for those who were familiar with CalSEED last year, we are technically doing 4 different solicitations in parallel. We're splitting these up by region. So the regions are the same as the regions that the regional clusters use. This is defined by county. So when you provide your address, we'll ask you to verify what county you're in. And that county determines which application pool you go into. So these are the 4 different pools. Broadly defined, it's Bay Area, which is in red, Central Valley, which covers that huge blue swath, Los Angeles, and San Diego. So based on the address you provide, that's the pool you're entered into.
So it means we will have more competition?
It depends on how many are in each pool. So, yeah. So the point of doing this is to ensure that there's more geographic diversity. As you know, or you might suspect, we had a lot of Bay Area applicants and winners in the previous round. This is supposed to be for all of California. We love the Bay Area. I live there. I grew up there. It's great. But this is really about all of California. So one way we can do that is to provide these 4 different solicitations so that we ensure we have proper representation from each region. We will also have certain restrictions as far as the number of applications we can submit. So this time we're only going to allow 1 application per lead applicant. So you can only apply once yourself. You can still be on the team of another application, but that needs to be a separate concept, and you need to have you can't be the primary person there. Similarly, it's only 1 application per concept. So if you have a certain idea, you can't apply with it twice. That makes sense? So this is how it will work. So February 15th, as Jeff mentioned, yes.
For the map, are you looking to divide funding based off of the region or collectively you select all these?
Yeah. We're only dividing this for the applications. It won't necessarily be true that each region will receive the same number of awards, the same amount of funding. So eligibility application is open 15th to the 28th. It should be really short. So we ask for your basic information, and a really brief description of your technology. We're really just checking for eligibility. So it shouldn't take you much longer than half an hour to complete. After that, we'll screen through them. One thing that's different this year is there's a cap to the number of applications. So we can accept at most 100 total, divided by per region, so 25 per region cap. This will not be time-stamped. This will be done by a lottery. So essentially on February 28th, when the applications close, everyone who applied in each region, we will randomize the order and then look at the first 25 that are in scope. And those are the ones who will be invited to do the full application. So that means if there's 50 that apply in Central Valley, 25 of those will be chosen by random, assuming they're all eligible. If one of them is not eligible, we'll go to number 26 to see if that application is eligible. Similarly, in Bay Area, if there's 20 applications, all 20 would get in. If there's a 100, only 25 would get in. And then once we finish that review, we will notify those selected to complete the full application, which is significantly more detailed. It might take you 3 to 7 hours complete based on if you have done previous applications before, basically. And you'll have from March 7th to March 15th to complete and submit them. So any questions on this process?
Can we challenge the decision? If you don't,
You can challenge it, sure. Yeah. But,
give us a fair hearing?
yeah, I mean, the CEC has approved this process. So it's not, there's no merit being judged at the eligibility phase. It is by lottery if we go over 25. So there isn't really any evaluation of merit there. It's purely checking for scope. And then once we run out of space, we run out. The reason for this is really our review team. So last year, one thing we ran into is we had a lot of applications and our reviewers are volunteers. It takes a lot of time to review these applications. And because of that, we had to set a limit for how many we can accept this cycle. The good news is last year there was only one cycle. This year there will be more than one, probably 2 or 3. And with the shorter application first, not everyone will have to spend many hours in the full application. Only those who will actually be reviewed by the review team.
Yeah, Derek, on the due dates here for eligibility application, February 28th, is it midnight that night? Is it that strict?
No, midnight was painful last year, so it'll be noon.
Okay. And it's the same thing with March 15th. What time do you need that?
Yeah, we'll specify that. It'll be probably noon. Yeah, noon's a lot nicer.
So if you have several two phases this year, so if the lottery here, are you then automatically put into the next round, or do you have to reapply with the short?
Yeah, you won't necessarily be rolled over to the next round. The reason for that is each solicitation, each cycle can change thematically as well. So we might do a buildings-focused solicitation. We might do something focused on energy storage solutions. So this is still a broad call for clean energy. The only difference really is the region focus, but it may not be the same for future cycles.
And also, do you remember how many applications you got from the Valley region last year? Just kind of ballpark.
I think it was slightly less than 25, actually.
Do we hope for more applicants this time?
Yes,
So
we are. We are.
There's a good chance of being.
Yeah. And that's why we're focusing a lot of our outreach on Central Valley this year for the last year. So the application process, as I described, it's 2 phases. So the eligibility application, it should not be a big burden besides that paragraph explaining what your technology does, and then the rest are pretty much multiple choice. Everything's done online, so please just check our website. It'll be up on the 15th. As I mentioned, we'll have a manual available that actually shows all the application questions, including the full application questions you can prepare. And everything is available at calseed.fund. Okay, so after that, so assuming you submit a full application, this is what the review process looks like. So we have a technical advisory committee. It's assembled by a lot of our CalSEED partners, including the clusters and volunteers that we're able to recruit. So these are a variety of technical experts, PhDs, academic institutions, industry experts, business experts, so investors, people who judge for other accelerators and incubators, social equity experts as well. So those people make up 3 different teams, and it's essentially a 3-phase review process based on that technical advisory committee. So these are the 4 categories that the full application is split into, and the review goes along the same categories. So the first is innovation. This is really about the technical merits of your application, whether it's innovative and also achievable, and what the key challenges are, how you stack up with existing solutions and competition. Impact is really about social equity and about the disadvantaged communities aspect of CalSEED. So one thing I haven't mentioned yet is that CalSEED has a big mandate for equity in, equity out. And this is legislated that 40% of our funding goes towards disadvantaged communities, underrepresented communities in California. So part of what we're testing for is, does your technology have the potential to benefit not just California ratepayers, but also disadvantaged communities within California? So this has to do with what particular communities do you think your innovation would benefit? If it were to be commercialized, would it increase access to clean energy within all communities, including disadvantaged communities? And what are the economic development opportunities that you could create if funded by CalSEED? And then readiness. So readiness and team are both evaluated by the same subgroup in the technical advisory committee. So the readiness section looks at the scope of work that you provide as part of the application. Does the plan look feasible and achievable? Does this seem like a good use of funds? Basically, will the $150,000 make a difference if this is something that requires millions of capital-intensive effort, or if you already have a lot of previous investment? It's really about how much impact will the money make. And then finally, with team, we're looking at who's working on this, not so much in like the resume sense and qualifications, but really about your passions. The qualifications do matter, your experience matters, but we're trying to judge why this team is the right one and what they've done in the past to show that they can succeed with this particular proposal. So that's the review process, and this is the full timeline. So a couple weeks, February 15th is when everyone can apply. We'll take about a week to review who is eligible. And then after that, we'll have the full applications available from March 17th through the 15th. We'll go straight into the technical advisory committee review after that. That does take some time because we have this 3-stage process, and we have quite a few reviewers and applications to process. But once that's done, we can expect CEC approval around May or June. And that means by July, people can get started, enter the program, and get started with the Cleantech Open Accelerator and bootcamp. So what follows after that, it kind of depends on your application. So some people will take 6 months or 18 months to complete their concept award grant. That's part of your proposal as well. As with the funds, do you expect that to last 6 or 18 months or somewhere in between? And then in that time, the concept award winners will be preparing for the second prototype award and that business plan competition. So the timing is subject to change. There can be delays. Last year, it pretty much followed the schedule. So hopefully it could be even faster this year. This is kind of a slightly more conservative estimate. So that is all I have for you by me the presentation. So you can contact us at info@calseed.fund with questions. Our FAQs will be updated regularly, so I'll put a timestamp on there to show when it was last updated. So stay tuned for that probably next week, and then this presentation and the application manual will be available before applications open as well. Yes, definitely.
This last year was the first year I've been working in prototype.
No, so our first prototype award competition will be probably in September of this year. So people didn't really get started until September or so. So it was we can only do the prototype award competition once per year. It was too soon to do it last year, so we're doing it this year.
Will a university?
Yes.
Do you provide feedback after that? I don't think you provide feedback. Why you didn't put it?
Yeah, not automatically. If you email info
we
at
can
CalSEED,
ask. Okay.
yeah, then we can provide some feedback.
And you mentioned that one of your partners might do some typical training.
Yes. Yeah. So we have a schedule of events. So we're doing a road trip right now. We're going to Bakersfield later today. We'll be in LA, San Diego, Berkeley. We'll have webinars as well. At least 2 webinars. Basically, the online version of what I just did. So you can attend again. But on top of that, our partner Greenlining will be hosting 1 or 2 technical assistance webinars. So this is for not to help you with the application, with filling out the application, but if you are confused about certain application questions or need help basically accessing or understanding what we're trying to ask for in the application, these webinars will be a chance for you to do that in a Q&A type of format. So that will probably be February 14th, but it will be published on our website and publicized shortly.
The prototype will work. The restriction that has to go to the concept award.
So you must be a concept award winner to qualify to apply for the prototype award winner. You don't necessarily need to have completed all of your concept award before you can even apply, compete for the prototype award. But your performance in the concept award, including your participation in Cleantech Open, will be considered as part of the prototype award judging. So for some more context, the prototype award is actually the natural progression of the Cleantech Open program. So as you go through the summer of business clinics and there's pitch coaching towards September and towards winter, there's these showcases and chances for mock judging and actual pitches. So it dovetails nicely with when you would actually pitch for that prototype award.
So the high schoolers, did they get that?
High schoolers? Yeah, definitely.
15%, but you know, I am interested.
Yeah, no, we would love high school applicants. We got a couple last year, and they were really exciting. So there's no, I don't know if you have to be over 18 or something, but
There's a
I'm not sure there is. You can probably have someone applying for you if you are in high school.
yes, because of the software program, like, this one.
Yeah, I highly encourage that.
In that case, the institute should be the high school, right?
I'm not sure. I'm not qualified to answer that
high
right now.
schooler has a company.
You don't need to have a company. You can apply as a person.
Oh,
Yeah, so I'm not sure if there's age restrictions about applying for grant money in general, but they can do it through the parents if they need to, or a guardian. So they're definitely eligible.
I have a question on fund. Sorry. Do we know how much total fund for this fiscal year, like, and what is the maximum minimum limit for application? How much you can apply for?
For the concept award?
Yeah.
So it's at most $150,000 for the first round award, the concept award.
Okay.
For the prototype award, you can win at most $450,000.
Yeah. So do we know the total amount, how much it would be awarded?
For all the grants, it's 600. Yeah, 600,000.
I missed that, I guess.
Derek, for the concept application for this for 150,000 for the review, does it benefit an applicant if they ask for less money, or does that not matter?
Not necessarily. I think it's more about is the work you're proposing, is that commensurate with the amount of funding you're requesting. So that by itself doesn't affect the scoring. Yeah.
Is there any match fund requirement?
There's no match fund requirement. No.
You mentioned an individual can apply.
Yes.
Provided
No, they do not need to be incorporated. So you can apply as a pure individual. You can supply your home address. There's no other requirements actually. You can apply as purely individual. If you are a sole proprietorship, you apply with whatever that registered address is. And then you do need to, so the address is based on your time of application. If you win the award as a sole proprietorship, you have to be registered with the appropriate county before you can accept the award. You don't need that to apply. And similarly, if you're a corporation, yes, that's right. Incorporate and be registered and in good standing with California as Secretary of State.
So is there a limitation of number of applications from a certain institute? Like, for example, business tech can apply 10, 15, or...
So the institute, there's no limit as long as the lead applicant is different and the ideas are different. Yeah.
I just have a comment. We also, I'm working with the Valley, which is our hub here. And we also have resources for helping not necessarily fill out applications, but help you kind of try to do it either and not finding routine. That's the interest. It's not all other problems. We have subjects to give ideas and kind of writing. So that's just more about everything.
Are there any questions on the webinar?
Right now.
Okay. Well, I'll be around after Stephanie's presentation as well. But I think this is a great transition for after CalSEED. If you're too late for CalSEED, you can apply for the Rocket Fund. So, Holly, did you want to?
Yeah, I just want to thank you, by the way, and it's a great program.
Okay, so I guess we shall start my session. My name is Stephanie Yanchinski. I run a program at the California Institute of Technology called the Rocket Fund, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this and another program that we run that can help you actually fund your venture. Our mission is to, we say, educate our future clean tech entrepreneurs to become business leaders by helping young scientists and engineers start their own companies and grow them successfully. But in fact, our mission has broadened to beyond just scientists and engineers to include any entrepreneurs, clean tech entrepreneurs that really want to make a difference. Our programs are run from the Resnick Sustainability Institute, and we defined the Resnick's mission, if you like, as being the studio for sustainability at CalTech, where rigorous science and bold creativity come together to address the toughest problems in redressing the balance of sustainability. So we are the sustainability hub at CalTech. Today I'm going to tell you about two programs, actually. One is First Look West, which is a business plan challenge for early stage clean tech entrepreneurs. It's sponsored by the Department of Energy. And the Rocket Fund, which is the main reason that we're here today, which is a granting program for building your first commercial prototype that will allow you to begin field testing with customers. And this is sponsored by the 6 major California utilities. So FLOW, as I mentioned, is the business plan competition. And what do we offer? Well, top of the list, of course, prize money, more than 100,000 this year. And we've added to it with a track that's sponsored by the Department of Defense this year. And that has attached to it a $35,000 prize. We fund, in a way, we kind of overlap a little bit with what CalSEED does, because we have a number of tracks that go from early stage concept right through to testing with customers. So, for instance, we have a transformational idea award track for pre-commercial innovation. Typically, the developer doesn't know what the market potential is, and they use the competition to discover that. We have a ready to commercialize track, which is for later stage companies that already have a pretty clear idea of what the product's going to be. They have IP and they have a team together. What the competition offers, like most competitions, real world experience from judges that are immersed in clean tech. Most of them have been in the business for a long time. They're either investors or they're from the utilities. And they can, it's a very worthwhile experience because they can help guide you as to what the market potential and the business potential might be for your product. And perhaps for today's purpose, one of the most important things is it has become a channel for the rocket fund companies. Just a quick slide that shows that Flow over the 7 years that it's been around has had considerable impact. We've worked with close to 1,000 entrepreneurs from 30 universities, 19 states. We've helped launch more than 20 companies actually that altogether have raised by now close to 80 million actually in follow-on funding from investors and grants, and also from customers. A couple acquisitions by big energy players. So I think what this slide shows is if you get a certain amount of funding, a certain amount of mentoring at the right time, it can get you through that terrible period of survival as you emerge out of an academic situation or from the garage. So let's turn to the Rocket Fund. The Rocket Fund was established by the 6 major California utilities: Southern California Edison, PG&E, SoCal Gas, San Diego Gas and Electric, and 2 municipals, Sacramento Municipal Utility District and the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, 3 years ago as a pilot program actually. And the reason that they wanted to do this was to provide a vehicle for, first of all, finding exciting technologies, and then providing a channel and a bridge to their incentive programs, which typically come in a bit later after the product has been proven in the marketplace. So the Rocket Fund gives us a small, relatively small grants, 10,000 to 75,000, but these grants are non-dilutive. For a start, we don't require IP. It allows you, as I said earlier, to build your first commercial prototype and begin field testing. And it's very fast and flexible. Typically, we can make the award within a month after the review panel gives the final assessment. We don't have a lot of reporting requirements, but they are necessary. So it provides that short, sharp boost of capital that you need at a certain point in time to be able to build that first commercial prototype that the customer is asking for. And we see it, the reason I use the word triangle is because we see it as a triangle of support. So there's your company that forms one apex. There's the customer, the prospective customer that forms the other. And then there's the utility support that comes in the form of technical advice. Also, there's some matching funding that might be available if the project fits with what the utilities want to support at that particular time. So with this, we can talk about what the Rocket Fund finances. So such things as equipment purchase. A lot of government grants don't cover that actually. They may cover salaries, but they don't cover equipment. Engineering design, very important. Obviously, you're taking your lab prototype and you're reshaping it into something that is going to actually work in the real world. The prototype building, the actual construction of it, taking something that's benchtop and scaling it up. Software programming, we also support that. Consulting services, particularly for manufacturing and processing. We find that a lot of entrepreneurs really don't have much experience with putting one of those together, so that it's important that you get the right consultant in to take you right through from sourcing components right through to being able to price your product correctly. And we've just added this year certification, services, and testing. That can be a very expensive item. Some estimates are around 150,000, and a lot of entrepreneurs, as they start out, don't realize that A, they have to do it in order to sell the product, and B, that it's very expensive and very long to do. So we have actually a partner that can help you with that. This just simply says what we do. We've taken companies at the top, as you can see. We put them through the Rocket Fund process that is supported by the utilities. There's a lot of input there, a lot of support. And it delivers a product that should be ready to roll with the customer. Now, maybe not quite at the point where it can be sold on the market, but at least it is looking like something that the customer might want to buy because they've had input. And what we found is that not only do the customers like this, but investors like it, because what you've been able to do is de-risk your technology at no cost to the investor. So a couple of our companies have been able to go on and raise their seed round after they got a rocket fund. We are pretty broad, probably a little bit broader than CalSEED in this respect, because certainly the energy track overlaps with your interests, supporting IOUs and ratepayers' needs, so that we definitely a match there. However, we've added more recently the water energy nexus as being a focus for us. And also the food processing industry. The utilities realize that it's a polluter, can be one of the major polluters. And so with a new refocused goal of carbon dioxide mitigation, greenhouse gas mitigation, utilities have taken that on as a priority for them. But we have another track, the sustainability track, which basically covers everything else. And what I mean by that is it covers energy generation from renewables, for instance, waste heat conversion, for an example. We've funded advanced transportation, and so welcome any kind of applications in that field. And of course, I mentioned carbon dioxide mitigation. So I don't want to put brackets around the kind of technology that you should bring forward to the Rocket Fund, as long as it fits in the Cleantech world, if you like. The one thing that we do not fund is, I guess, what I'd call environmental types of ideas. So let's say recycling plastic bags, that type of thing we don't do. There has to be a strong technology or science underpinning to your application. I talked a little bit about the Rocket Fund benefits being fast, non-dilutive, and having as partners the 6 major utilities. But we have other partners that can help you out. One is the Electric Power Research Institute, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with what they do, but they're a national, in fact, they're an international organization, very strong membership from the utility. And they do a lot of applied R&D as well as lab testing of technologies. So the way it works with us is that if you make it through and you receive an award, then you are automatically referred to the Electric Power Research Institute. You go into the database. They will then show your details, your information to their membership base. And if the membership likes it, then they'll come back to you and say, how can we work with you? And typically what they offer is lab testing support. And that can be very helpful when it comes to certification and validation. Wells Fargo, they run a program called IM2. We are a channel partner for that, and what that is a voucher program that they have set up with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory in Colorado. And again, you get a combination of cash in that case and a voucher to be able to test and validate your technology at Enroad. And in that case, you get technical support to help you develop the technology for validation. ANSYS is a very large company, national company, that provides engineering software, design engineering software. And typically their packages come in about $150,000. But they formed a partnership with us for their startup packages where you can buy it at much less, you can get some technical support. And what that software allows you to do is iterate your prototype without having to build multiple models and multiple times. So you can save a lot of money by basically running it through the design software. So now we can talk about the Rocket Fund and the process. And I want to reiterate that it operates like any grant process, meaning that there's going to be milestones to be set. Some of these are going to be set against payments. But we do pride ourselves on the minimal reporting requirements, the fact that it's non-dilutive, and this short, sharp boost side to it that we feel is really helpful to you at a certain time. And you do have the opportunity for multiple applications. In other words, if you come through, you win an award once. We've done this at least 2 or 3 times where we've given next year, when you come through, you're a little bit further advanced. We're happy to give you another award. So Our stage 1 application is online. It's a 2-page form. It's really easy to fill out. The one thing that I'd like to point out, though, is what we expect. And we look for technology that is validated and is competitive in the marketplace. So even on that early application form, you should be able to show how you're different from the competition. You need to show that you're already interacting with customers. If you remember that triangle, the customer partner is the person, or rather the company that's going to do the field testing. That has to be there on the application form. Now, you may not have secured that agreement yet, but you have to show that you're talking to a prospective customer about that. You have to show that you have some idea about how you're going to manufacture and price your eventual product. The next stage actually goes into that in a lot more detail, but if you can give some indication on the initial application form that you have an idea about that, that would certainly get you through. And finally, you have to, even on the early application form, show some impact. In our case, the impact is a little bit different from CalSEED. We're more specific about wanting to show energy savings, and it comes down to kilowatt hours saved. And now, with the new focus of the utilities, greenhouse gas impact. Harder to measure, but even in generalities, it would be nice to see that you have an idea about that. So stage 2, after you get through the screening stage, which we basically look for companies that are in scope and at the right stage. Stage 2 is a much more in-depth review and due diligence process. So you'll have another form to fill out which asks a lot more business-specific questions, technology-specific questions, like, for instance, the origin of your technology. We'll want to see some validation data. We'll want to have you estimate what the limitations are of your technology at the moment, because that helps us decide how we can help you. On the business side, we're going to want to look at, see market channels defined, the path to commercialization, and we'll want also some data about the energy savings that I mentioned earlier, probably spelled out with some kind of quantification. And so what we look for when we evaluate at this stage is, does the technology make sense? That's obviously core to all of this. Do you understand your competition and where you fit within that universe? We see a lot of applications where people will say, well, you know, we're the best of everything. You check all the boxes. And unfortunately, that's not the way the competitive world works. So the more you can show that you understand that you're bringing value, it doesn't have to be to the whole marketplace. Maybe you found your SAM that just fits you, the better chance you'll have of getting our support. And you should show there also that you have this manufacturing plan. And on this form, you'll have to define it a little bit more. We don't have to know all the confidential details. We just need to see that you know that it's staged and that you're going to have to perhaps outsource it rather than manufacture it yourself. At what point will you do that, and how will you get to that point? So if you make it through the review process, we have a team of reviewers that go through them and select out of the number that we have. It's usually a reduction by about, actually about 80% don't make it. So we get down to about 20% of the original applications to get to this stage. And I've called it pitch day. Basically, you sit down in front of the review panel of utility experts, some investors, and you tell the story that you've outlined on that due diligence page. It gives you an opportunity to go into things in more detail, to also talk about, articulate your vision, if you like, for the technology and the product that you're developing. And what we look for at this stage is, as you mentioned with CalSEED, the appropriate use of funds. And in our case, what we ask is that you present maybe 3 options for the use of funds. So the full $75,000, what it would set up, what it would establish. If you only get 50,000, how far would you be able to get with that particular project, or maybe it would fund something else? And 25,000, what you would do with that money. And what we can do if we don't fund you all together is we can look for matching funds within the utilities. We've done that before to build on the amount that we give you. It doesn't prejudice what we give you at all. If we feel that your project really needs 75,000, then our money would have that kind of impact that justifies it, we'll give you 75. But we feel if we can have more of an impact to give you just 25 to purchase a particular piece of equipment or buy consulting services, that is really the rate limiting step, that might be what we give you. We also look for, as you might expect, a clear plan for field testing with your customers. So there we have to see more evidence than just casual conversations, but how you would go about it if you were able to secure this agreement with this particular customer. In the past, in the way of things, we made an award where the customer actually fell through. After a lot of negotiation, that particular arrangement didn't go through. Our utilities were able to help find another customer. In fact, it was Walmart, it was one of the best customers you could have. It took a long time. We were okay with it going beyond a year that we'd set aside. But that's how the utilities bring their connections in to help us. So stage 4 is assuming that you get an award. We do set up a memorandum of understanding. It's not legally binding, but what it does do is set out the goals and milestones and how are you going to use the money so that we are on the same page, if you like, when you're starting this project. We do also lay out metrics. In our case, the metrics, as I've mentioned before, might be energy savings, attracting, for instance, additional funding, perhaps from a prospective customer or from a grant, attracting interactions with other customers, with more customers. That sort of metric is what matters when we come to putting together the final report on your particular project. The payments sometimes come in tranches. It depends actually how we set up the goals, but we can either give it up front or we can give it over time, and that is part of the negotiation of the MOU. Our reporting, as I mentioned earlier, is fairly straightforward. We ask you to fill out something called a quad report, and this is literally a one-pager with 4 quadrants that looks at such things as accomplishments, issues that you're facing, limitations, milestones, and next steps. And it's very simple, given in bullet points, but what it allows us to do is check in quite easily on where you're at, whether you've hit your previous bullet points. And the reason that we want to see those, aside from making sure that the money is used effectively, is to find out how we can help you. Everybody pivots, especially when you're talking about setting up your first prototype. There's going to be a lot of twists and turns in that. And if we can bring help to guide you or to bring you additional resources, like I mentioned EPRI earlier on, we'll be happy to do so. There are teleconferences, but that is set up at a schedule that really suits you and the kind of project that we're doing together. And I mentioned that, I've mentioned at least twice, metrics are important, but we will ask for those at the end of the project. So as I mentioned, we didn't know starting out 3 years ago whether in fact the Rocket Fund at that level of award would be effective. Turns out it's quite effective, because it's filling again a gap that no one else funds. So we've made 14 awards to date, a wide variety of technologies. I list some of them there. There's load shifting, refrigeration, energy storage, new irrigation technology, which is of interest here. In fact, it's a company that's working in the Central Valley, developing a new irrigation technology. Lighting technologies, that's in fact where we overlap absolutely with CalSEED. EV charge management across a microgrid, a new trucking device for smoothing out the gap between the cab and the trailer at the back, it actually saves 6% on long haul trucking, which is substantial. So we funded that as well. And as I mentioned, two companies have gone on to raise seed funding of 2.5 million each, but one of those has gone on to raise a further 5 million. And one customer, in fact, has secured the very year that they got the rocket fund, a $5 million customer contract. So I'm going to end with talking about one of our favorite projects or companies, Axiom Exergy, because they went through the whole program from flow, as I mentioned, with that very early transformational idea award track, funding good ideas, right through to testing the testing with the customer that was the result of the Rocket Fund Award. So Axiom Exergy is a company that develops, basically it's a new load shifting technology. So what they do is they take the excess refrigeration capacity that's running up refrigerators that are running during the night. They freeze salt water. That's literally what they do. And with that stored refrigeration energy, they can actually feed it back into the supermarket as a cooling energy during the day when, of course, energy prices peak. And it seems like a fairly straightforward idea. They took off-the-shelf components. There's no magic sauce to this, no magic technology. Started in 2014. This is 2 students out of Stanford. And they won our first Transformational Idea Award when they competed in the flow competition. That very year, they went on to a Cleantech Open, actually, which has been mentioned many times. And they, as I say, didn't have much more than a sketch, but they went through the training and they won the Investor Award at the end of that program. Came back 2015, and they had put their technology together. They were beginning to test it, and they won our first prize. They competed at the Department of Energy's national competition and did very well. So that was just in the space of a year. That very year, they also won our Rocket Fund. And as I said, that eventually resulted in a testing arrangement with Walmart that started actually this past November. They have, as partners with that Walmart pilot, San Diego Gas and Electric and Southern California Edison, and they were actually able to get some matching funds for that particular project. That very year, they also signed a customer agreement with Con Edison for $5 million. Con Edison, as you may know, is based in New York. And in this past year, 2016-17, they've been able to raise more than $5 million in another round. Now, the Rocket Fund is open for applications now, and you can go on the Flow website to find actually where to apply. It'll end at the end of April. It actually says on the website the end of March, but we're going to extend it by an extra month to the end of April. We go through and select, if you remember, there was a stage 1 where we do an initial selection during the month of April. And then in May, we will have selected our semifinalists. We'll ask you for the due diligence forms to be filled out. From that review, we'll select our finalists, which we'll present to in person in early June. And we make the decision pretty much on the day. And from that, you know, we call you up and we say, let's talk, let's establish our MOU. And you can actually get the money by the end of June. It's that fast. So this gives you the email address for myself if you have further questions, stephanie.yanchinski@caltech.edu. I know the slides will be available, so I don't need to spell it out. And also, the website is www.flow.caltech.edu. That has information on both the Flow program and on the Rocket. So with that, I'll see if there are any questions. Yeah.
What was the name of the program associated with that project?
IM2.
IM.
That's right. Capital I, capital M. It's not a public program as we know it. In other words, they don't throw it open to public application. You have to go through a channel partner, and we are one of the channel partners. So that's why if you apply for a Rocket Fund, and you make it through, and you fit with the priorities actually of IM2, then we feel that you're a good prospect. And we'll
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Sorry about the application.
Yes.
Did you, and sorry if you went over this, but how long might it take to complete an application?
No, I didn't actually. The first application, the screening application, takes probably half an hour to 40 minutes because it goes over things that you talk about every day, quite frankly, just telling your story in a different way. The due diligence form requires a lot more attention, and I would say that filling that out might take you a couple of hours. It really requires a lot of careful thought because we're going to base pretty much all of our decisions on who's going to make it go forward to the final round on that due diligence form. Okay.
Thank you.